Okay, so your GMO greetings. Yeah, I say we thank everybody for joining in with us and those who are going to come in or see the, recorded version of this short stream. We just wanted to give an update on our upcoming events. So you see, if you haven't seen on our website or the updated video that we put forward, we are streaming or having a virtual screening. It's not going to be a live stream, but a virtual screening of our new documentary film, Hoodoo, Akan Ancestry Religion in North America. Let me show you the flyer for that. Okay. So that instead of having it Saturday, initially we want to do the virtual screening on Saturday evening. We're going to do it on Monday evening instead. So Monday, October 9th, this Monday coming up, 8 p.m. here on our YouTube channel. We're going to have a specific private link. So you have to register through Eventbrite. Go to Eventbrite, purchase your tickets on Eventbrite. We're going to send you the private link. And at 8 p.m., we're going to show the film. After that, we're going to have a discussion right here on the YouTube page and so forth. We'll be connected to Instagram as well, a discussion about the film. So let's get into some information that's associated with that. Let me flip over real quick. So this is our webpage. So we also have our Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival, 9th annual, that is coming up October 14th, which is Saturday, October 14th. This year, we're going to have it in Atlanta, Georgia. So typically we have it here in Washington, D.C. We have had it on live stream a couple of times during the whole COVID issue and so forth. But typically we have it in Washington, D.C. We have a number of presenters. We have vendors and so forth. This year, we're going to have it in Atlanta. So what we're doing this year, instead of having a number of presenters, and what we're doing, of course, Hoodoo Mayn means Hoodoo Nation. It's the Hoodoo Nation Festival. We deal with the Akan identity of the Hoodoo tradition. We're the first to prove and publish that Hoodoo is the Akan term Undu from the Akan ethnic group. We show linguistically and cosmologically and ritually and genetically that it was Akan people coming into North America during the Musuo Kessie, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era. We were forced into the Western Hemisphere. We maintained our ancestral religious practices, and the Akan tradition became popularly known by the Akan term Undu. In the Akan language, Undu means medicine from roots, trees, and plant life. Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession and spirit communication. Undu also means to feel a presentiment or foreboding of what's unfolding in the spirit realm so that you can take note of what's taking place and make ritual adjustments so you can align your life activities with divine order and so forth. So we're the first to show that. We also show the etymological origin of the terms mojo and jack or jackball and haint, as in the haint spirits and haint blue and the Gofa doctor and Gofa dust and so forth, and many different things. All of these are Akan terms. All of them are rooted in Akan cosmology. They're all unbroken from Akan tradition in West Africa, Ghana, and Ivory Coast into North America. And we trace them all the way back to ancient Khanit and Kemet, ancient Egypt and Nubia. So we show it linguistically, we show it culturally, we show it ritually, and so forth. So let's look at the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival information real quick. This is our page, the Hoodoo Mayn page on our website. So as we said, we will be on screen. We'll be screening the film at the Hoodoo Mayn Festival in person. That'll be a live screening. That's the first live screening, in-person screening. It will not be live streamed on October 14th. You have to come to Atlanta to the event and so forth. And we're going to have the screening. There's also vegan dinner connected with the registration and so forth. So we'll have the screening, we'll eat and so forth at the intermission, and then we'll have a panel discussion with hoodoo practitioners, authentic hoodoo practitioners, a panel discussion with the audience about the film. So that's October 14th. That's normally we just have vendors and a number of different speakers on the tradition, but this time, since we're releasing the film, this is the first release in person of the film. Now, the virtual screening is a pre-release screening. The virtual screening is the one that is October 9th here on our Odwirafo channel on YouTube. So when you register through Eventbrite, you get your tickets, as we said, then we will send you the private link. 8 p.m. Monday night, you'll be able to watch. You'll be the first to be able to watch the film. This is the very first screening period. It will be virtual and so forth. Now, but let's look at the Hoodoo Mayn Festival page. This is the flyer. Okay. So you'll see we say that that's up. So you see that we say that Akwamu Mayn Amarukai TV the Akwamu Nation in North America invites the community out to the 9th annual Hoodoo Mayn Hoodoo Nation Festival. Now, it's the 9th annual. We had our first festival. We started putting it together near the fall, right before the fall 13,015, so-called 2015. So that was the first, and later that October, of course, we had the first festival. And then that was the first one, and this will be our 9th festival. At the time when we were looking around to see what people were doing around the country, seeing if anybody else had any festivals, we were looking and, checking things out. The only festival we saw at that particular time was a festival in California, and it was totally fraudulent. It was run by Europeans. Of course, Europeans, the whites and offspring, have no connection to hoodoo. They are racially incapable of practicing the hoodoo tradition, which is Akan ancestral religion. If you're not Akan, you can't practice Akan ancestral religion. They can't practice any Afro-Akani African Black religion of any expression whatsoever. So whenever you see non-Black people pretending they're practicing the Yoruba tradition or Akan tradition or Vodou and so forth, it's always fraudulent. They have no capacity to be possessed by or communicate with the Abosom, with the Orisha, with the Vodou, with the Arusi and so forth. Of course, they have no capacity to communicate or be possessed by the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our spirogenetic blood circles who founded these traditions and who carry the energy, the Tumi, as we say in Akan, or the Ashe, as they say in the Yoruba tradition, the divine energy of the divinity. So they have no capacity for that. So, but we saw these crackers putting together some nonsensical, whitewashed, fake hoodoo festival. So, of course, we were going to put ours out anyway, but we were just checking around the country to see what people were doing. So we put forward our festival 8 years ago. And then as the years progressed and so forth, we began to see a number of people starting to talk about hoodoo more and more since 13,015, since 2015. You've had a plethora of websites and IG pages and all kinds of things, YouTube pages and so forth, bloggers and so forth. And now some people are putting forth festivals themselves. The difference with regard to ours, we say Hoodoo Mayn, which means the Hoodoo Nation. Mayn means nation in the Akan language, so Hoodoo Mayn means the Hoodoo Nation. So once again, when we talk about the hoodoo tradition, the Akan word undu specifically means medicine. The undu, the medicine, comes from the undua or undria in the Akan language, which means roots, trees, plant life. So undu, medicine, comes from the Undua, the roots, the trees, the plant life. So Undu means medicine, but Undu also means heavy, to become heavy. Heavy with the spirit. So when spirit possession takes place, the spirit mounts somebody, whether it's an obosom, a deity, or one of the Nsamanfo, one of the ancestral spirits, the person becomes heavy Undu. So Undu means medicine, but Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession and spirit communication. And then you will also find that Undu also means to feel a presentiment or a foreboding, to see what's unfolding in the spirit realm, and to make ritual adjustments to align your life activities with order and so forth. You can see what's unfolding spiritually. So that's what Undu means. So when you become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession, and the ancestral spirits show you what's unfolding spiritually, so you can make ritual adjustments, you're engaged in the Undu process. So Undu also means to reach or arrive and so forth. So Akan ancestral religion in North America came to be called popularly by the Akan term Undu, which is pronounced hoodoo. It's from the Akwamu Akan dialect. Undu means medicine in the Akwamu Akan dialect, but the Asante Akan dialect, the Asante is a large Akan group, subgroup of the Akan. The Akwamu is a large subgroup of the Akan people. The Fanti, if you ever heard the term Fanti, if somebody says I'm Fanti, that's a subgroup of the Akan people. There are about 26 million Akan people between Ghana and Ivory Coast in West Africa. They're the largest, percentage in Ghana and Ivory Coast, one of the largest groups on the continent, and one of the largest from whom we were taken and forced into the Western Hemisphere during the Musuo Kessie, the Great Perversity, the Enslavement era. So what you'll find is the Asante, in their dialect, the term for medicine is Nduru, Nduru, but amongst the Akwamu, it's Undu. Undu is just the root, the stem, or there's no stem, attached to the root. So we say Undu, the Asante people say Nduru, but it's the Akwamu dialectical variant, Undu, that became popular in North America, which became Hoodoo. So we talk about the Hoodoo Nation that's dealing with Akan identity. And then we talk about a number of different things in the flyer. This is the flyer for the piece. So you'll see that we have the first 3 years that we did the Hoodoo Mayn Festival here in Washington, D.C. We published a journal with different articles on different aspects of the Hoodoo tradition, also showcasing the vendors, the businesses, and so forth. Those 3 journals for the first 3 years, they are free downloads. You can go to our website and download all 3 of those books. You'll also see the our seminal publication, Hoodoo People, where we go into the etymology and cosmology of the term hoodoo and our identity and so forth. That's a free download as well. So when you look on the page, you'll see that what we're talking about on that particular page, we're talking about the Hoodoo Mayn Festival, what it's about, why we established it and so forth. And what we normally do is we have vendors, a number of different vendors with the products that deal specifically with the Hoodoo tradition. And we have a number of different presenters from the Hoodoo tradition. We're talking about our ancestral religion as we preserved it in our blood circles for hundreds of years here in North America. So it is Akan ancestral religion, but Akan ancestral religion in North America. So we would have Hoodoo practitioners, those who are descended from the Hoodoo tradition here in North America. We wouldn't have an Akan priest or priestess, an Akan Okomfo or Abosomfo from Ghana or Ivory Coast to come and speak at the Hoodoo Mayn Festival, because we're talking about Akan ancestral religion preserved in our blood circles here. So, for example, there are things that have taken place here that an Akan person on the continent wouldn't have any understanding of. They know how to do divination, for example. So they can take cowrie shells and, bones and different things and do divination. When we were forced over here, if we didn't have access to cowrie shells, but we saw an animal that we've never seen before because it didn't exist back from home and so forth. We see a possum walking around. We have to ask our Nsamanfo, our ancestral spirits. We have to ask the Abosom, the forces in nature. We have to ask Asase Afua and Asasiya, the earth mother divinities. What is the nature and function of this particular animal we've never seen before? What is the energy complex of this animal? What abosom, what divinity governs this animal? Because all animals are governed by one of the forces in nature and so forth. And once we find that out, we can ask if we can utilize that for divination and so forth. They give us the detailed information. So when you see people using possum bones, for example, for divinatory practice in the Hoodoo tradition, that's because we learn directly from the abosom in this region of the Earth Mother's body, as well as the barren Earth Mother and fertile Earth Mother, learning from them who these animals are, what their energy complexes are, and how to work with that energy complex and the unique expression of that energy complex here in the Western Hemisphere. So we use possum bone divination. We've been doing that for hundreds of years. And our Khan Okomfo, when our Khan priest or priestess from Ghana or Ivory Coast visiting North America, they couldn't come and teach an Akan person in North America who practices hoodoo how to use possum bone divination. They could not initiate us into the practice of doing divination with possum bones. We can show them how to do that, but they couldn't show us how to do that. So we have our own priesthoods and priestesshoods here, just like we've had for hundreds and thousands of years. We never stop practicing the tradition. Our priesthoods and priestesshoods are intact. The hoodoo man and hoodoo woman, the kanche man and kanche woman, conjure man, conjure woman, and so forth. And of course, we show that the term conjure or kanche comes from the Akan term, kanche, and so forth. This is what we're dealing with. So let me go back up. Okay. So this is the kind of information that we deal with in the festival. So that's what we normally do. We have presenters, we have the journals and so forth, we have vendors and so forth. This particular event in Atlanta on October 14th, we're going to screen our film in person. This is going to be a live screening. It's not going to be live stream. It's just going to be for people who are in attendance. So you can get your tickets on our website and so forth and come connect with us in Atlanta next Saturday, October 14th. We're going to screen the film. We're going to break for a vegan dinner and so forth. That's included in the registration price. And then after we eat, then we're going to have a panel discussion with traditional hoodoo practitioners and so forth. So then we're going to, so that'll be the way we break it down at that particular event. That is Saturday, October 14th. Now, Monday, October 9th, as we said, and some people are just coming in, we're going to have a virtual screening. This is the very first screening. The film has not been released yet. This is a pre-release virtual screening just for our subscribers on YouTube and our followers on Instagram and so forth. We're going to have a virtual screening October 9th, which is Monday evening. At first, we were going to do it this coming Saturday, October 7th, but we pushed it back to October 9th, Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. So when you go get your tickets for that, you will see October 9th. Once you purchase your tickets on Eventbrite, then we will send you the link. We'll send you the link on the day of the event. It's going to be a private link. So, of course, you'll be able to check that out. And it will only be up for that evening. And then, it'll be taken down, of course. And then we'll have the actual, full screening with regard to being live in person next Saturday. But those of you who follow us on Instagram, those of you who follow us on YouTube and so forth and Facebook, our specific subscribers, followers, you get the first shot at checking out the film. Now, okay, so there was a question. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Hold on a second. There's a question about the etymological origin of the term voodoo. So we wrote an article about that, and I just want people to see the article. It included a number of different etymologies for the different traditions here in North America. So I'll pull that article up for you. So as we talk about it, you can check it out. And of course, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat room. So we have the Hoodoo Mayn conference, or Hoodoo Mayn festival in October, but then in March every year, we have the Etchi Sign Ancestral Religious Reversion Conference. And what we did was, I'll pull that up for you right now. All right. So that's the Etchi Sign piece. Let me just go back real quick. Okay, so that's the Etchi Sign journal. So we did the same thing that we did with the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. So for the Etchi Sign conference, so in October, we have our Hoodoo Mayn Hoodoo Nation Festival. Is specifically dealing with the Hoodoo tradition. And of course, as we've shown, the Hoodoo tradition comes from ancient Khanid and Kemet. We migrated to West Africa, practiced the same tradition. We were there, migrated to the western part of the continent a couple of thousand years ago. About 1,000 years after that, some of our people migrated from the ancient empire of Akana or Ghana further south towards the forest belt and savanna regions, which is in the region of today's Ivory Coast and Ghana. And then hundreds of years after that, some of us were taken from there and forced into the Western Hemisphere during the enslavement era. So this is how, came from the east to the west and all the way to the extreme west. But we maintain the culture, the religion, the language, the ritual practices, and so forth. And our work shows the linguistic connection to ancient Kemet, the cultural, ritual, as well as genetic. So we deal with that in specifically the Akan tradition, the Hoodoo tradition, in October. In March, we have the Etchi Sign conference where we deal with various traditions. The Hoodoo tradition, which is Akan ancestral religion in North America, the Voodoo tradition, which is Ewe ancestral religion in North America, the Juju tradition, which is Yoruba ancestral religion in North America, the Wanga tradition, which is the Ovambo tradition in North America, the Fang tradition in North America, which is in Gengai, the Gola and Kisi, which is Gullah and Geechee traditions, and so forth. We're talking about those of us who maintain these traditions for the past 300 plus years in North America. So once again, for example, with the Juju tradition, Juju is the Yoruba tradition in North America, meaning we would have somebody who's descendant from those who continue to practice Juju in North America. We wouldn't have somebody come from Nigeria, from the Yoruba ethnic group, and come and present on the Orisha at our conference. There are many conferences that do that. We would have somebody, and we've had people whose families maintain the Yoruba tradition for the past 300 plus years. And instead of calling it Ifa or the Orisha tradition in North America, Yoruba people use the Yoruba word Ju or Juju, which means to cast or to throw in Yoruba. They continue to call their Yoruba tradition the Juju tradition. So if you heard of a Juju man or Juju woman in North America in 1912 or 1920 and so forth, they weren't just saying, I'm a Juju man or Juju woman. They are saying, I'm a Yoruba man or Yoruba woman. If you heard somebody say, I'm a Hoodoo man, I'm a Hoodoo woman, they were also saying, I'm an Akan man, an Akan woman. If you heard somebody say, I'm a Voodoo man or Voodoo woman, what they were saying is, I'm an Ewe man, I'm an Ewe woman. If you heard somebody say, I'm a Wanga man or Wanga woman, they were saying, I'm an Ovambo man, I'm an Ovambo woman. We were identifying our ethnic group through our religious practice. It was Europeans who started conflating Voodoo and Juju and Hoodoo and everything else and just saying it's just an amalgamation of different African traditions that we just threw together that had no real structure. That's Europeans saying that. We practice the tradition, of course. So we have At the Echisan conference in March, we have different traditions represented. People talking about juju, people talking about hoodoo, people talking about wanga, voodoo, and so forth. The first 3 years, once again, we published a journal where we did different articles on the tradition and so forth. This journal is free as well. All of our books are free. All 31 of our books are free. In this particular journal, I'm pretty sure it's this version. So it is. So, one of the articles in this is volume 1 of the Echisan conference from 13,016, so-called 2016. And of course, we don't say 2016 because nothing happened 2,000 years ago. Jesus is a fictional cartoon character, so we don't track time based on a fictional character. So, when you look, let's scroll down real quick. This particular article, note on hoodoo, juju, grigri, vodun, wanga, and ingengai. So as we just said, when you look at these terms, hoodoo is from the Akan language, juju is from the Yoruba language, grigri, Bambara language, vodun or voodoo from the Ewe as well as the Fon language, wanga is Ovambo, and Gengai is Fang. All these traditions were preserved by the people. Of course, when we got off the boats and we were chained and then we were sent to different plantations, we didn't stop practicing our traditions. Even though there was enslavement happening, when we had a free moment to ourselves, we would still pour libation in our language. We would still teach our children the language. Even if they were sold away, there were bits and pieces of the language they were able to hold on to and so forth. We still communicated with our ancestresses and ancestors. We still communicated with the forces of nature that governed us. So we never stopped practicing the tradition. As we've proven, they have been sustained in certain blood circles. Now, we did an etymological breakdown of each one of these terms, showing their meanings and their origins. Now, of course, we had already done an entire book dealing with the hoodoo tradition. So in this particular article, we just did a highlight of that. So we said, just like we said earlier, undu means medicine in the Akwamu dialect. Undu means, unduru means medicine in the Asante dialect. So undu, medicine, unduru for the Asante. But undu, of course, became hoodoo. Undua, or undria, is the roots, the trees, the plant life. So undu in Akan means medicine. Where does the medicine come from? It comes from the undua, or the undria, the roots, the trees, the plant life. But then we also show the exact same terms in ancient Kemet. So we have undu in Akan, you have undu or unduru in the Asante, you have unduru in ancient Kemet. When we talk about undu means to be heavy, heaviness and so forth. Undu to feel a presentiment of foreboding. Undu meaning medicine. Undu having to do with spirits and so forth. All of those terms exist in ancient Kemet, in the Medutu and the hieroglyphs. And we've taught a course parts 1 and 2 on how to read and write the Medutu, the Medutun, the language of ancient Kemet, the hieroglyphs and so forth. You can access parts 1 and 2 on our course page and so forth. But we show the etymological origin of these terms in the language of ancient Khanid and Kemet, in the Akan language, and preserved in North America in our blood circles. Now, so we did a whole book dealing with that for the hoodoo portion. We get to the juju section, but before we get to that, let's just scroll down real quick. So the term vodun, so the Fon people as well as the Ewe people, you see Fon people live primarily in Togo and Benin, with smaller populations in Ghana and Nigeria. The related Ewe people live in the same regions. So in Fongbe, which is the Fong language, it's stated that the term vodun is derived from vo, meaning to rest, and dun meaning to draw water. Now, there's a cosmological reason for that. Now, that's a descriptive title. The term Vodou, also pronounced voodoo and so forth, that is a term for deity, divinity. The Vodou of the sun, the Vodou of the river, the Vodou of the earth, that means the deity of the earth, the deity of the sun, the deity, and so forth. Vodou means a deity, a god or a goddess, a divine spirit force in creation. Just like in Yoruba, Orisha is a deity, a spirit force in creation. In Akan, Abosom is a deity, a spirit force in creation. In Igbo, the Arusi is a spirit force in creation. And Eve and in Fong, the Vodou is a deity, a god or a goddess, a divine spirit force in creation. But etymologically, when they break down the word, it means vo means to rest and dun to draw water. So what is the association? Now we talk about here on a mundane level, you see the sisters with the large vessels of water. So they go down to the river, they walk a long distance, they have the vessel on their head and so forth, or they're holding the vessel, but then when they get to the river after a long walk, they rest, and then they take the vessel, fill it up with water, then they put the vessel on their head, and then they walk back up the path, the long path to the village. And of course, they have to stay balanced, they have to be poised and so forth in order to make sure that the water doesn't spill or splash or fall over and so forth. So first they rest, and then they draw water. Vo means to rest, and then they draw water. But then we talk about spiritually, what does that mean? On a spiritual level, the water is the gateway to the spirit realm. We first rest, Vo, become still, and then we draw water, enter the spirit realm, go under, become possessed by the Vodun or Kuvito. Kuvito is the ancestral spirits in Vodun and so forth. And that also has to do with water gazing. That's a form of divination in various traditions, but that is a form of divination and so forth, water gazing. So you rest first, you pause, then you go under, you go into the spirit realm. Once you go through that gateway, you can connect with the Abosom, the Nsamafo, the Vodun, the Kuvita, spirit possession happens. You can engage in divination, you can engage in healing practices and so forth. So that's what Vodou means ritually and symbolically, but that's also a title for the forces in nature. Now, and then we show in Kemet, Tun, which is also spelled Dune. And when you see the little loaf of bread here, looks like a half circle and so forth, that's a loaf of bread. That's the T sound, Tun, rising flood or inundation. But then when you see the hand with the open palm, that's the D sound. So this is Tun, and another variation of that is Dune, and you'll see that in Kemet in the language a lot. The T and the D interchange, so you see the same word spelled sometimes with the T, sometimes with the D, and so forth. But that's Tun or Dune, rising flood, inundation. So when you talk about Dune, meaning to draw water in Eve, that's the same Dune having to do with the rising flood or the inundation. And then we go into a little bit more cosmology. We don't have to go through the entire thing, but you'll see that the little medut for the bird or the chick is either spelled with a U or a W. You will find that not only in European languages, the U and the W and the V interchange and so forth, but you also have the U, the W, and V interchange in Afro-Akani languages as well. In the old dictionaries, they would use a U. In the modern dictionaries, they use a W. But just like in European languages, Sweden is a W, but they also say Sweden with a V. In the Ewe language, Some of them pronounce it Ewe, E-W-E, and you have some that pronounce it Eve, Eve with a V. If you look at the Ovambo people in Namibia and Angola, you'll see that some of them spell it Ovambo, and they will say, you ask them what their ethnic group is, they say Ovambo, but some of them say Owambo. There's an interchange between the V and the W. It's a dialectical difference. Some groups say Ovambo, some say Owambo, some say Ewe, some say Eve. This is the same thing. The little chick that you see is the U. That's not Unu, is Wunu, Wonu. Wonu would be one dialectical variant. Vonu or Vonun would be another dialectical variant. When you see the little hair rising up out of the water and so forth, the difference between hares and rabbits is that hares can swim and rabbits can't swim. So when they show the term Wonu, Wonun, which means existence or being and has to do with the rising flood, there's a sacred cosmology dealing with the hair, the sacred hair, and you'll see that he's connected to the divinity Alsar and a couple of other divinities as well. But there's a male hair divinity and a female hair divinity, and they talk about the origin of creation, the hair in the water swimming and then rising up or leaping up out of the water, and that's the beginning of creation. That's when existence manifests and so forth. That's Wonu in one dialect, Vodun in another dialect. That Vodun in ancient Kemet is preserved as Vodun in the Ewe and Fon languages. So we go into detail about that in that article. And we show the same thing with Juju. We show the same thing with Anga or Owanga. All the different etymologies for these different terms. We go into detail about them all. Okay. Okay, so, but what we wanted to do, and we just wanted to get to, hold on one second, let me switch back to. Okay, so just for the people who came in a little bit later, we're letting people know that this Monday is the virtual screening, the pre-release virtual screening of our new film, Hoodoo, Arcana Ancestral Religion in North America. You can get your tickets on our website. That's 8 p.m. Monday, October 9th. And then October 14th, we have an in-person 9th annual Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival in Atlanta, Georgia. The film screening, we'll be doing it live. We'll have a panel discussion afterwards. And as we said, we'll have vegan food as well. That's all included. The vegan meal is all included in the $23 price. So $23 for the ticket, vegan meal, the film, and the panel discussion. That's in Atlanta live on October 14th. But the virtual screening, that's, accessible, anybody connected to our YouTube channel and so forth, all of our subscribers. It's exclusive to our subscribers and followers, October 9th, Monday. And that is it's $11.11, but with the taxes is $13.31, but that's the ticket price for the virtual screening. We're going to have a panel discussion afterwards, after the screening on Monday night. Once you watch it on YouTube and so forth, then right after that, we're going to come back on live stream and, StreamYard and so forth on YouTube, and we're going to have a discussion about that. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss any comments. That's all we wanted to share tonight. For those who have already purchased a ticket for the virtual screening, I say we thank you. If you haven't, you can go now to our page and let me show you that. And you'll see it on the website as well. give you this link, put this link in the chat room. So we have a Kanche Films page. And if you're not familiar with that page on our website, that's a separate website, the Kanche Films website. And I'll put that link in the chat room. On that side, you'll see the first thing you'll see is the Hoodoo Mayn Hoodoo Nation Festival. The Hoodoo film flyer and the trailer for that. You will also see our first film, Odwirafo Adibisa, African American Ancestral Divination, where we talk about the different traditions. Voodoo Queen Galinda LeBeau talks about the Vodou tradition in North America, out of Louisiana. Wabet Sechat Tudank Wajet, she talks about the Ovambo tradition in the Gullah constellation. You have Rekit Kajarania Yad Nebet Het. She talks about the Fang tradition, the Ngangan tradition. And then you have Mama Mawusi Ashakir. She talks about the Juju tradition, which is the Yoruba tradition in North America. And then, of course, I talk about the Hoodoo tradition. But we're talking about, in that particular film, forms of divination that were preserved in these different traditions in the past 300 plus years in North America in our blood circles. So that's what that film is about. And we put that out a few years ago. We won an award for that at the Kwanzaa International Film Festival in New York. But so this is the second film, and we're focused specifically, we drill down on the Hoodoo tradition. So, but yes, go to that page, get your tickets for that. Please share the information. We want as many people to check out this film as possible. We want the feedback. This is the first virtual screening, so it's like a test to see, what people have to say about that and so forth. And then we'll start doing the regular screenings in different cities over the next few months. But this is the first one. If you're in the Atlanta area, you want to travel to the Atlanta area next Saturday on October 14th, of course, the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. I'll put that link in the chat room as well. Okay, so that's the page we were just looking at previously for the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. And we also, when you look on this channel, you'll see that we have 7 episodes of our Hoodoo Cast podcast for authentic Hoodoo Arcana ancestral religion in North America. We will do the 8th episode, drop that next week. We took a few weeks off because we've been working on the Hoodoo film and completing that, but we're going to get back to dropping podcast episodes every week. We're going to get back to that next week after the virtual screening, but the first 7 episodes are up. So if you want to check those out, they are on our YouTube page. Of course, we're on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon and everything else. We're on all the streaming services, the major ones, our Hoodoo podcast. So you can check those out on, wherever you get your podcasts on these different streaming platforms. But here on YouTube, you'll see the visuals as well. All right. Okay, there's a question in the chat room said North American specific, since this month is Hoodoo month. Caribbeans are trying to say it is also diasporic, period. And they didn't call those religions what we called them. So what we have is, so what we're doing, so for example, we have we have our New Year observance at the Atem Atamet equinox. We have a 7-day Obrajira New Year observance. The autumn equinox is the first balancing point of the year, just like the spring equinox is the second balancing point. 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness. So the autumn equinox, that's the harvesting time, but it's also the seeding time. It's the time of conception. So that is our New Year's Day. This year, September 23rd was the first full day of the autumn equinox. So that was our New Year's Day. So from September 17th through 23rd is our 7-day New Year observance, and September 23rd was the first day of our New Year of 13,024, 100 days before the European New Year, which starts in January at the dead of winter, at the dead of night, which is insane. The day doesn't begin, at midnight. It begins at sunrise. The year does not begin at the coldest, darkest, most infertile time of the year. That's what European cave dwellers do. So, of course, we don't deal with that. And, of course, nothing happened 2,000 years ago, so we don't track time based on the fictional cartoon character Jesus who never existed. So we say 13,024 because we're in the midst of a 26,000-year cycle. So we've been celebrating our 7-day observance for the past 23 years. So, 22 years. Now, we have our Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival 3 weeks after our New Year observance. So we've been doing that since 13,015. Just a couple of years ago, some people decided to make October Hoodoo Heritage Month. That's a brand new thing. So some people are doing that. We've been, having our Hoodoo Mayn Festival in October since, the past 8 years ago. And we also do not utilize the Gregorian calendar. So October 1st through October 31st, that's not even a natural cycle. We use the astronomical calendar, which is based on where the stars actually are. So, for example, some people say that Virgo is from October or August 21st to September 21st and so forth. That's based on a corruption of an actual calendar. We did a whole, class on cycles of time and so forth, ancient calendar from ancient Kemet and so forth, the Coptic calendar in ancient Kemet, the astronomical zodiac. We talked about the original, deities. In fact, let's just pull up that flyer real quick, just so you can see it. Okay, so we did this class, and you can download this parts 1 and part 2. We were talking about it's Achinebois. Achinebois is a term for animal totems in the Akan language, but the sacred animal totems and deities of the original zodiac. So when you see the different divinities here, and we did this first part session was 7 weeks, and the second one was 6 weeks to make up 13 weeks for the 13 signs. They're not 12 signs that cross the ecliptic. There are 13 constellations and so forth. So we talk about the original deities, animal totems, for example, Badab Jedet, the ram divinity, the great ram of the north and so forth. In ancient Kemet, this is where they get Aries from. You see Ptamen, the bull, where they get Taurus from. You see Shu and Tefnut, the twins, where they get Gemini from. You see Kepra, the beetle, where they get, and Keprit, the female beetle, and so forth, where they get Cancer from, and Herubedeti, the great Chesed Enoch, so-called Leo, Ausis, the Virgin, and so forth. They get Virgo from that. Auset, the scales of balance. Libra, Serket, the scorpion goddess, and so forth. That's where they get Scorpio from. We also talk about Sekhmet, who was the serpent bearer. This is where they get Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, from. They talk about Ophiuchus as the serpent bearer. He's Asclepius. But Asclepius is a corruption of Imhotep, the great healer, and so forth. And in the late period, Imhotep was added to the triad of Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertem. Ptah, the fashioner divinity, Sekhmet, the warrioress, and so forth. Nefertem is their son. And they would sometimes put Imhotep as a son of Ptah and Sekhmet because, those deities govern him. and he was the serpent bearer, and he was the healer and the physician and so forth, and also the architect. So they took Imhotep, corrupted him into Asclepius, and then, Ophiuchus. But the real serpent bearer is the mother of Imhotep on the deity side, and that's Sekhmet, who is the serpent bearer that bears the serpent on her head, and she's the great healeress. And her priests are called Sunu, which means priest, but it also means physicians and so forth. So we talk about that. That's the 13th sign of the zodiac. Neat, the great archeress, is Sagittarius. Kunwimu, he's the great ram of the south that became corrupted into the goat of the south in Capricorn. And then you have Hapi, which is the male divinity of the Nile River, the spirit force that animates the Nile River, and Merit, which is the female deity of the Nile River, who animates the river on the feminine side and so forth. And then you have Anit and Remi, the two fish divinities, pilot fish of the boat of Ra, excuse me, and they became Pisces and so forth. So we go into detail about that, but we also talk about cycles of time and all of that. We don't follow, for example, they say Aries is from, Virgo is from August 21st to September 21st and so forth. In reality, the sun doesn't move into the sign of Auset, quote unquote, Virgo or the Virgin, Auset, until September 16th. Not August 21st or 20th, but September 16th is the first day. And it's not 30 days, it lasts all the way until October 31st. So it's more than 30 days, 40 plus days and so forth. So we don't go by the European calendar. So some people are using, October as Hoodoo Heritage Month, and that's just something that they decided to come with. But we go by the, actual spaces, the animal totems that govern the specific constellations, animated by different divinities that we identify, and we show this information, in our class. People in the Caribbean, once they, look into their own traditions, they will find what the real cultural structures are, including notions of time and so forth. Just like there's voodoo in Louisiana and different parts of the southern United States, that was here 100 years before the Haitians came into Louisiana. 100 years before that, voodoo was already in Louisiana. So it had nothing to do with Haitians coming from Haiti and bringing voodoo to Louisiana. 100 years before that, in the so-called 1700s, people who were taken from the Aja Empire, the Ewe people and so forth, they were forced into Louisiana, and they brought voodoo with them, and it's been there from the very beginning. 100 years later, some Haitians migrated to Louisiana, but voodoo was already here. So they have their own expression of voodoo. People in North America have their own expression of voodoo. People in the Dominican Republic, Black people, have their own expression of voodoo. There were different groups, Ewe, Fon, Aja, who were forced into the Western Hemisphere, and they maintained their traditions. So people in the Caribbean, they have their own expressions when they look deeply within that, and they get rid of all the white symbolism and misinformation. They have their traditions just like we have ours. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end it here. We just wanted to update people because we know we had sent out the video before and it said October 7th, and we decided to move it up 2 days. So if you saw the previous video that said the virtual screening, the online screening is this Saturday, just today we removed that video and put the new video up, and it says October 9th, which is Monday, just to let people know. And then, of course, the Hoodoo Mayn Festival in person in Atlanta, October 14th. So those are the next two events that we have coming up. Now, we also have coming up also, we can show you this right quick. We're going back to Kemet and Khanit, Egypt and Nubia, in June 4th through June 12th. We have a few spaces left open for that. If you would like to join us in Kemet, travel with us. Our trip, of course, our tour, when we went last year, and we'll be going back, next, well, it's really the end of spring, right before summer, but our tour is open, of course, to Afro-Akani, African Black people only, of course. So, as are all of our events. So, but we have a few spaces left available for that on that tour. So, if you would like to join that tour, you can go to our Arikat page on the website. We'll put that link in the chat room also. Okay, that's the link for that. And you can see the information, and you'll also see on the page when you scroll down, we have a number of different videos from the different places. We go from Northern Kemet in the Gaza region and so forth, all the way to Southern Kemet, Aswan, and into Kanit, into Nubia, Abu Simbel, as well as Philae and so forth, Paraka. So we go to 12 different cities, well, 13 different cities, 13 sites in 12 different cities from Northern Kemet to Southern Kemet. That includes the Nile cruise and so forth, going to the temples, the tombs, and different things. And we're talking about the cosmology of creation of these different centers. So you'll see all these different things. We also have access to one of the sites that everybody else is not having access to because they're still working on the, renovations and so forth. But it's a very important site that we're going to have access to because some of the murals and certain things that are not often seen are in that particular temple, so we have access to that. So, but you can look at these different videos and see, the places that you will be going and visiting and everything else to give you a sense of what we do on the tour. Okay, so if you have any questions, hit us up on, of course, you can send us a message here, comment on the video here, but on Odwirafo on Instagram, Kwesi Akan on Facebook, as well as Odwirafo Akan on Facebook, going through our website, sending us an email. But you can hit us. We do a lot of posting, most of the posting on Instagram. We also have a Twitter account, Odwirafo, so you can hit us up on that. But you'll see all of the updates. We post most of the updates first on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well. So once again, Yerase, we thank everybody for joining in with us. And Yebesha Bio, we will meet again.